Hello and welcome to another episode on Conversations with Jumie. I remain your host right here on this show. So, I've been reading lots of stories online relating to depression, and personally, such stories have been heartbreaking. I read about the story of a mother who drowned a year-old baby, and also about a lady who got depressed and had to go and correct a squint eye. And when I read such stories, I realize that the society causes lots of these depression stories. You hear, oh, my friends always make jest of me, my parents compare me with my younger siblings, and I just feel we should do better as a society. And that is why I have decided to talk about this topic, depression. We don't talk about depression as much as we should. Lots of people mask depression for years, acting like nothing is wrong. Men, women, children go through this. Nobody is exempted. Even the biggest stars, everybody go through depression. There should be something that we should do better. There should be treatment. There should be sensitization on how people need to censor their words. People need to think before they talk. And that is why I have invited a clinical psychologist who will be discussing the depression and will be preferring solution. I'm talking about the treatment of depression. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. Hello and welcome back to Conversations with Jumie. And I have my guest with me now in the studio, a clinical psychologist, Miss Damilola Daramola. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
All right, let's start from, as a clinical psychologist, what do you do basically?
Okay. Clinical psychologists like myself help people navigate through life when they are going through emotional challenges, emotional distresses, behavioral challenges. We, at times when there is need for an assessment, we do an assessment, interpret it, of course, putting the person's life in context, and then we design treatment plans and do psychotherapy.
Wow. All right, our topic for today is depression.
Okay.
What is depression? How do depression begin? How does it begin? How does it start?
Okay. Okay, so depression is a mood disorder.
Okay.
And when someone has depression, there are some things you would notice for a period of time, like a persistent sad mood, like persistent sadness. At times there could be increased appetite or decrease in appetite. There is insomnia or hypersomnia. That's hypersomnia. That's sleeping too much or sleeping too little. And there is low energy level.
Okay.
The person gets easily fatigued.
Okay.
At times there is guilt. And in some cases there is suicidal ideation. The person has thoughts of harming themselves, taking their own life. There is a feeling of hopelessness. So when like at least 5 of this occurs for a period of 2 weeks,
Okay.
then we could be seeing a case of depression. Yes.
Okay. Is depression hereditary?
Okay. I won't say it is hereditary, but there are some things we call predisposing factors. When you're talking about hereditary, we are talking about, is there a genetic vulnerability? And there's something they say that genetics is like a loaded gun.
Okay.
If you don't pull the trigger, nothing will happen. So there has to be a precipitating factor.
Okay.
So the fact that there have been there's a family history of depression does not necessarily mean someone in that family will come down with depression.
Okay.
It just means there is a proneness.
There's a possibility
Yes,
that it can happen.
yes.
So when you realize that your family have an history of depression, what do you do as a person in order for you not to fall in that part? What would you advise someone to do?
Okay, if there's a history of depression in the family, okay, um, it's advisable that the person seek help from experts. That's the person that has the depression.
Okay.
And for someone that has noticed that okay, there's a history of depression, one of the things you can also do is to be
Cautious
to be
with how.
cautious. Yes, be aware. The
Okay.
awareness
Okay.
is the very key thing, and then also you you have to be cautious of how your thought patterns, like because you okay, since you know that this there is for example, if someone has a family history of diabetes,
Okay.
you want to manage your lifestyle. I'll talk more on what you can do maybe when we get to the
Okay.
phase where the period where we talk
Okay.
about the
All
treatment.
right. Okay. Now, just out of curiosity, what are the things that causes depression?
Okay. um Most times major life events, like
Okay.
maybe the loss of a loved one,
Hmm.
and also when there has been an exposure to traumatic events early in the childhood, like sexual abuse, like even verbal abuse. Maybe someone constantly talks down on the person. They've battered their self-esteem. So later in life, the person could come down with depression when some other precipitating factors happen. And even there's childhood depression. So
Okay.
even as a child, bullying, things like that
All
in
right.
schools.
Okay, so I read a story. I want you to help me categorize what this is because I read
Okay.
a lot of comments saying this and that, but I just want to get your point of view
Okay.
about a lady who drowned her daughter. And when I was watching her interview, she was even saying she even told her baby that you're going to die today, oh, you're going to die today because you've made my life a living hell. What would you make of that?
Okay.
Would you say it's depression? Some people say it's evil, evil spirits. Some people say selfishness. She's a murderer. Would you call that depression? Would you or mental disorder? What would you call that?
Okay. We are always very careful to label
Okay.
in psychology. Because most times when people have a label, it causes stigma. It causes stigma. So what my response to that would be that first of all, there needs to be a psychological evaluation. We
Okay.
can't just, but there are cases of, I'll talk about postpartum depression and a more severe form of mental illness that happens in motherhood too, postpartum psychosis. So in postpartum depression, we have those symptoms of depression, like I earlier mentioned,
Okay.
but usually it happens after birth. At times, it even occurs during pregnancy. You can start to screen for postpartum depression during pregnancy,
Okay.
and the symptoms we see is that at times the mother finds it difficult to bond with the baby. At times, even the fact that some mothers go through those challenges, like maybe they cannot lactate, makes them get frustrated, and and when there is no effective support, social support system, they're helping the mother to navigate that new path. And by the way, there is also paternal postpartum depression. So fathers too have,
Really?
yes, fathers
What are
too
they
have
thinking about?
postpartum depression. Yes, at times financial challenges, those are things that could
Okay. Okay. Okay.
serve as a risk factor. And in our culture, we don't encourage men to be in touch with their emotional
Yes.
parts. Even from childhood, you say boys don't cry. Man up. And those are reasons why men don't express their emotions. They don't want to show their vulnerability. So there really is something called paternal postpartum depression. So in the more severe case, postpartum psychosis, there is a feeling of being out of touch with reality. The
Okay.
person could be hallucinating, maybe hearing voices speaking to them. Maybe that's auditory hallucination. They could be seeing things that others cannot see, visual hallucination. So it's a more severe form of mental illness.
Okay.
So in such a case, and one of the things that happen in these cases is at times the affect, the emotion is flat. You can't really you feel this person should feel remorseful for what is happening, but they don't have insight. That's what we call it. You don't have insight into their own problem.
Okay.
So things like that happen.
All right. Okay. Can depression be treated?
Yes.
Oh, okay. In what way? Or is it by flogging?
No, 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 no,
I'm
no.
not kidding about
Yes,
that.
I know.
Okay, so can depression be treated? What are the steps?
Okay. Depression can be treated, and we follow a model. We call it the biopsychosocial model.
Okay.
So the biological parts, in the biological part, we at times some cases of depression need medication that we call antidepressants.
Oh, like drug?
Yes, to regulate the mood, to help
Okay,
regulate
I
the
was just
mood.
thinking just talk to the person, take them to the correctional center, that's all. That's part of it.
Okay, not correctional center anyway.
Okay.
Okay, so the psychological part of the treatment,
Okay.
that's where I'm really concerned.
Okay.
We do psychotherapy.
Okay.
And what happens is most times in cases of depression, we have found that there are cognitive distortions. That the person has some faulty ways of thinking, of processing events that happen to them. You know, so what we do in psychotherapy is we would have taken the person's history, we have an interview with the person, we conduct a standardized assessment, psychological assessment. That helps us to tease out some information from the person.
What are these assessments?
Okay, there are psychological, there could be, we have personality assessments, we have psychodiagnostic assessments, we have different forms of assessment.
Okay.
When we do the interview, we know what assessment is necessary.
Okay.
So when we find out what the problem is, we design a treatment plan. We hold sessions with the person over a period of time, and it's been shown to be very effective. Because one of those faulty thinking patterns, at times we notice that people that come down with depression have a way of viewing things that happen to them. They could see it as at times they tend to minimize their potential. At times, the things when they experience a particular failure, then they just they view their whole life through the lens of that one event, and they believe because this happened to me, then I'm a failure. So when in the process of interaction, we find out those cognitive distortions. Some people also have a way of thinking that they overgeneralize because of a particular event. A particular event happens to them, and then it colors everything happening to it. It colors everything that occurs to them. They just see life through that one particular event. So, and life is not either black or white. There are different shades of gray. Okay. So yes, so we help when we identify those faulty thought patterns. We in conjunction with the clients, we find alternative ways of thinking. Okay. And over time, it's been known to be very effective. Psychotherapy has been known to be very effective.
All right. So when we come back from this break, we're going to be talking about the role society play in depression. We'll be right back. Hello and welcome back from that break. So I would like us to look at society and how they have caused a lot of people into depression. I'm going to say that with a story about a lady who had squint eye, the crossed eye. Good. She got so depressed and she had to cry to her mom. Even her parent didn't even notice that she was being bullied, being body shamed in school. And she had to, one way or the other, correct the squint eye. Good. She said she has her self-esteem back. But I was just wondering, what of people who don't have the means to correct the crossed eye? What of people who don't even have parents, who don't even have support system that they can even cry to? How do they cope? Would they just go and die because they have one? It's not even a disability, because they are just different in a little way from other people. What do you think society can do better in order to avoid in order to reduce cases of depression?
I would, first of all, let's go home, since charity begins at home.
Okay.
I believe parents should, right from when your children are small, when they are little, like speak affirming words to them, because when they go outside, you don't have control over what people will say to them, but help to build their emotional capital. It's like paying into a bank account, so in future when they go through challenges, they can draw from those affirmations that you have built into them.
Yes.
So like when your children come back home, ask about what happened in school, help to correct. Before, I talked about cognitive distortions earlier. Those faulty thinking patterns, they did not just start in one day. There are ways of processing like that, as it's like it has festered, it has become a norm. That's just the way you see life.
Okay.
So help your children see. Help when children feel. Don't tell them that the person that passed in class does the person have two heads. Encourage their strengths. If they are weak here, they are strong in some other areas. And even people evolve. This area they are weak. That might even be their strengths. Don't talk down on children. You talk too much. You just keep quiet. Can't you just help that child to channel whatever they are doing that you notice they are doing in excess? Help them to channel it positively. So that way, the emotional capital, you are building it. So when the child goes through challenges, there is something to draw from. Feelings of hopelessness happen when you can't see anything good in yourself. You can't see anything good in the future. You're looking back, you can't see anything good. So you don't believe anything good will happen. And also for people, society at large, people at home, if they say that hurting people hurt others. So at times, some people too are hurt. But since you can't control the other person, you can only help your own self. So also, as you grow and you notice seek help. Seeking help is not a sign of weakness.
Okay.
Even the best of us need help. So seek help from professionals, psychologists, counselors. There is nothing wrong in seeking help. So then people should also not body shame. And also the advent of social media has not helped too. You just see that old schoolmate is now doing this, and a lot of those things have been edited. Nobody puts their bad parts, nobody projects their weakness, and everyone has a weakness. Nobody projects their weakness. So always tell yourself that, and find something. Like one of the things I advise people to do is journal. Write out those things you love about yourself. Interview yourself. Write those, like even borrow from tomorrow's joy. Those things you're anticipating, bring them forward and start savoring the joy now. So those are things you can do on your own to help to build resilience.
All right. Okay. So let's be practical now. So at what point do you think you are getting depressed? At what do you notice in you that makes you, okay, these are the signs of depression, let me take charge, let me take action?
The major symptom you will see in depression is a persistent sadness. Like it's not like you're low. That happens to almost everybody. Maybe you feel low, you had a bad day at work, you were not able to meet your goal, and then you felt down, and that could resolve in a day or two. Or so when you feel persistently sad for at least 2 weeks, and you see some other symptoms, and also when you no longer find pleasure in things you used to find pleasure doing. Maybe you used to enjoy hanging out with your friends, and when they call you don't feel like doing it. Maybe you no longer care about how you look. At that period, you should seek help. Yes. Okay.
So in Nigeria, are there many clinical psychologists like you that we can, because lots of people just say doctor, we need to know that there are people who are professionals.
The difference between a psychiatrist is a medical doctor, who now specializes in psychiatry. So they can prescribe drugs, while a clinical psychologist is someone who is trained in psychotherapy, who is trained in understanding behavior, assessing abnormalities in behavior, using standardized psychometric instruments, planning designing treatment plans, psychotherapy
Okay.
for clients, and then we do that through. We do not prescribe drugs.
Okay.
We do psychotherapy. We have different forms. We do cognitive therapies. We do psychodynamic therapies. We have lots of therapies that we use
Okay.
as clinical psychologists.
All right. And with that, I want to leave this quote from Mahatma Gandhi that says, "You cannot change the way people talk to you, the way people treat you, but what you can do is to change how you react to this." Now, no matter how much we talk, there's going to be people who just derive pleasure in just body shaming, talking down on you. So it depends on you how you take it. Do you choose to be sad? Do you choose to let your self-esteem be battered? Or you choose to channel, like she said, channel your weakness into your strengths. So, and that's the end of this first segment on Conversations with Jumie. When we come back, it'll be time for our games. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome back. It's time for our game. Someone said, "Okay, why are you always excited about these games?" Yes, now I'll be excited because that's the part we really have to chill and just talk and all. So I'll begin with word from trivial. So that's the scrambled letters up there. So you have to make a word from that and create more words from the compound word you formed. So that's OGYPSYCHOL. So what word do you think that is?
That's psychology.
Ah, psychology. All right. So what? Okay, can you just create 3 words from that?
Okay. GYPSY. That's gypsy.
Okay.
That's a nomad, like a free-spirited person.
Oh, gypsy. All right. What other word can we see from there?
Log.
Okay. LOG. Okay. That's 2. What other word? Or should I make it 5? Because they're just getting everything.
Okay, it's remaining one, have you?
Yeah, many 3. No. Okay. One. All right. What other word?
I was going to say POS.
Let's see. I am seeing PLOY, ploy.
Oh, that's true.
Okay. And I'm seeing psycho. All right. Okay, give yourself a round of applause. So, okay, now let's just talk about this current issue. Well, it's not really current, but it's still trending about people clamoring that pastors saying churches should open. Since markets are opened, churches should be open. We need to gather. We need to pray unto God. This is an attack against the church. Okay, what do you think about that? Do you think it is important for churches to open at this time?
I think there have been more cases since the lockdown was even eased. And one of the people, a particular set of people I really pity. My heart goes out to them, are the medical workers. We shouldn't. I don't think we should strain them too much. They have enough on their plates already. So if churches open now, are we sure that we will sit together? We use the restrooms. We have a collectivist culture. On impulse, we'll still hug. There will still be some hugs and things like that. So are we sure that we can handle that? So really, for now, I think we should still keep going the way we are going and see how things
turn out to be.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Well, my contribution to that is I'm just bothered about, when we collect this offering, the people who are going to be counting this money, How careful can they be? That's another thing now, because the federal government have said churches should submit the guidelines on how they want to reopen. Yes, yeah, I think it's easy for them to maintain social distancing in churches. Not really easy. I'm talking about even with chairs now, sitting down. But even after church service, oh brother this, brother that, children will go to. I don't really know. Personally, I think we should still see how things turn out to be, see the event of things, rather than just saying churches. But we can also pray to God in our houses. The building is just the building. The church is the people, the human beings who go to church, the people themselves, not the building of the church. So I don't know. Well, if churches see that as realistic, if it can be managed, fine. But I just believe that regardless of what the government says, we are the ones who should know what we want, what we should do as a people. The government cannot think for us. We should be responsible. We should be self-responsible at this time. All right, so with that, we come to the end of another episode on Conversations with Jumie. So this was a very interesting episode. We're able to learn about depression, psychology, mental disorder, stages of depression, how to treat it. Thank you very much, Ms. Damilola Daramola, for gracing our screen. All right, so keep it locked on Biscan TV as we bring you more programs today. Thank you for watching. I remain your host, Jumoke Adiotiano. Bye.